Hello, Internet! I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Zach.
And this is HITBOX, the gaming podcast where we just kind of sit back and talk about whatever we darn well please, and you have to listen to it, darn it! But actually, this has been a long time coming. We have not done another one of these HITBOX episodes where we just talk about a single year in gaming in months. Has it been months?
It's been months, yeah.
It's been a long time. I don't know about when it's released last for you, but for us sitting down and actually recording it, it's been a long time. And it's mostly been because a really big thing happens in this year. The year we're talking about is 1996.
Yeah.
Zach, what's that big important thing that they're looking at on the screen right now? It's not a game, it's a console we're talking about.
We've had the introduction of the N64, which was delayed from its 95 release.
Yeah,
but,
so it's another thing that people don't really remember. Like, when games get delayed nowadays, people make a big stink about it, but once the game's out, or the system's out, nobody talks about it ever again. It's like it was never a problem. You know, like a game like Cyberpunk, really recently, Cyberpunk 2077 is having like an amazing amount of concurrent players.
Yeah.
But the game launched and it was unplayable. It was taken off of platforms, but you know, whatever. Now people are like, hey, the game's great! And you're like, just enjoy the game for what it is.
Yeah.
So even though the N64 came out really late and there was a lot of competition, this thing started smothering that competition quickly. Except for that partnership that they should not have backed out from a certain company called Sony, and going for this other one called Philips, and making the whole CDI instead of, you know, the Nintendo PlayStation, which is what should have actually happened had Nintendo not been the bad guys and backed down. And can you imagine the gaming world if the Nintendo PlayStation was actually the console? It would have annihilated everything else.
I don't know if I'd want to live in that world, to be honest.
Yeah, because then you lost your competition, you lost that drive to, you know, Metal Gear Solid is out because it's fighting to show what this can do that Nintendo cannot do.
Right,
Nintendo is just showcasing the creativity, what you can do with limited hardware. It's amazing. But we're going to start the years in gaming thing by just looking at visually playing one of the games.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about them through the rest of the episode, because what we had done up to this point, just in case this is your first one, is we tried to play almost all of them. And we would have to rapid fire some, like arcade games we just couldn't do, or really oddball ones that only showed up on strange consoles, and we'd have to go through a lot of hoops to emulate them for you. So instead, we're going to focus on one that we can, for the most part, play with our eyes shut. In this case, it is Super Mario 64. And we're going to just be playing Mario 64 this whole time, but our lovely editor is going to, in the post of this video, have a bunch of screenshots and covers and things that go below our head in this lovely space.
Yep.
So that you're at least like getting the same idea of kind of like how we did rapid fire before, but we're gonna try and spend like the time that we think everything is due, not just because we can play it or not.
Right.
Hopefully this is the best solution for this problem moving forward, because obviously when we get to, you know, the 2000s, we can't play every single thing on. How am I supposed to spend time playing, oh, this is Mario Galaxy, here's the menu, here's BioShock, I can't even get to the first encounter.
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't even get out of the airplane. Well, I couldn't do it. So
it's like, what are we going to do when we hit the PS3 360 era?
Exactly. So I think this is actually a good solution for us going forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start a brand new file here of Mario 64, and we're just going to talk about this coming out this year. So I don't remember exactly when the Sega Master System, and I think the PlayStation, didn't the PlayStation beat the Nintendo 64 to the...
Yes, so the Sega Saturn was the first one to launch. It had its early surprise launch in summer, then followed up by the PlayStation that same year, and then the N64 was slated to come out in 95, but because of production and a few other issues I don't want to get into, it had to be delayed by a whole year before it came out, which really did not help Nintendo's case.
However, say internally that was because they didn't want to launch it with nothing to play. I'm not sure what their reasoning was, but imagine the N64 launches and this game's not on it.
Oh my god.
This would have been detrimental.
It would have been, yeah. Oh my lord.
So, man, how do we even start by explaining what Mario 64 did for this? Now, obviously, visually, we're playing the Nintendo All-Stars Switch re-release of this game, so it's not natively the N64 one. This game was also remaster-maked?
I'd say remade. because you still had to redo all the assets. There was so much that they added. They had to add new characters in that.
Yeah, so this is weird. I mean, just coming off of our remaster remake episode, this game was I still kind of want to say master. It's like remaster with a ton of extra stuff for the Nintendo DS. Finally get that on there, but at least it did happen. And that was actually the one that I played the most. I did play this original one before that point, but I just wanted to... That was the one that I, like, 100% had played everything in.
Right,
and I didn't really have more chances to play until later on.
Yeah.
But still, so this game basically was... Now, there were exceptions to what I'm about to say before, as we mentioned, like Jumping Flash and stuff in previous episodes. But
Bubsy 3D.
Oh my god. This game basically solved how do you make a traditional 2D platformer game in 3D.
Which is you don't.
Yeah, which is effectively you don't. You have to recreate how does platforming function in a 3D environment. So instead, like, Mario doesn't have, like, a run button anymore. He doesn't. He wouldn't need such a thing. Instead, he's got, like, useless, like, crouching and kicking attacks that, like, you can never do this for. I heard at one point there was supposed to be an enemy that could only be, like, crouch kicked or something like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it never happened.
No. So yeah, the thing that this game did was, so revolutionary, and this was, for a lot of people, their first 3D game, their first 3D platformer, and how elegant they actually pulled it off for their first go at it.
Yes.
Just, again, speaks to what those weird wizards at Nintendo are capable of. It's so great.
I know, especially with a lot of time put into it, too. They would have to later make the same sort of... What is going on here?
You pick it up.
There! So, as you can just see, there's a lot of early 3D game jank that comes with this, especially with the camera.
Yeah, so, well, let's get a lot of the positives out of the way.
Yeah, we should really talk about that first. Now, so they had to discover, like, okay, you're going to get hit more often because things are just going to be weird in 3D. It's hard to figure that out. So, I just took a hit from a Goomba. So we have to give Mario a health system. He can't just die instantly.
No, that would not be fun at all.
No, there's different types of jumps. You can now triple jump. You could backflip.
Long jump, sideways flip. The thing that this game did exceptionally well, the ground pound, is its movement. It just feels fun just to move Mario around.
Right, I'm not even doing anything right now, and it's just fun just to make him bounce and make all those Charles Martinet silly noises.
Yeah, that's right. And the thing, too, is, and a lot of video essayists and video game reviewers always go on about Peach's Castle being the ultimate hub world, which, at the time, it had to be.
Well, there was no choice.
Right, and the other thing I love is that, a lot of people are not used to 3D, especially at this time, because, like I said, first 3D game someone's played. Well, how do you try to get across the idea of a camera that you control?
Yes.
You personify it in a Lakitu who's constantly following you.
Right, and I can actually, like, adjust and move where he is, and how he's facing behind me.
And with the tap of the R button, he actually, can go into camera movement.
You see, like, gravity effects that they were also trying to figure out, because we had those kind of things in Mario World.
Yes.
So there's a lot of it that they were trying to bring back from what Mario World was, but I think maybe the biggest transition was, instead of having that world of what Mario World was and you're slowly moving around this giant world, instead have Mario inside of the castle but exploring different worlds inside of them, and then when you go back into the same world over and over again, because you're gonna have to reuse these assets one way or another.
Yeah, because the limitations of cartridge space.
So that you can choose, like, what type, well, like, am I going to go for the next challenge, or am I going to replay an old one? Because you have to be able to replay old levels.
Yeah.
But this is also giving you the option where you can play all sorts of different levels with the same map.
Exactly, right, because like I said, limitations with cartridge space, because Nintendo, for some silly reason, decided to stick to cartridges in this generation.
Yeah,
which
better or worse.
I can kind of see where they're coming from, but in retrospect, it's like that might not have been the best decision ever.
No.
But, so like you said, we had to reuse a lot of assets. How do we do that? Well, we put an awful lot of missions in each level.
Right.
And that's how they kind of got around that, and that's the big thing with this game. So instead of going from left to right, trying to get through an obstacle course, you're in a little sandbox area each time, and the whole point is that you're trying to collect all of the power stars that Bowser has stolen from the castle and claim them back to save Princess Peach.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah, right. But, similar song and dance, but it's how you get to those goals that, are not predefined. They basically just say, here's a star, go and find it. And they give you like a little text clue at the beginning and how you get there.
I'm even showcasing something graphically that the game is doing that's really impressive right now that we won't really see done to the next level of what gaming does until we see Spyro the Dragon. And that is just when Mario gets away from the camera and anything else does, you can see he's actually switching down to a lower poly version of himself, but you wouldn't notice this on a CRT.
No, because it would have blended all the pixels together because of the scan lines going across the screen.
There you go. I don't know what... I did the same thing. Whatever.
Again, okay, so...
that's... It's old, and it has a lot of things that had to get solved, like... how do you kill the first boss? By showcasing 3D by walking around him.
Right, because they figured out that in a 3D space, it's actually really hard to precisely jump on an enemy's head. You can still do it, and you can get good enough to be able to do it, but for that to be a constant thing throughout the whole game, a lot of people would have trouble with that. And besides, they can't make those obstacle course levels anymore because you can just simply walk around them in a 3D space. There's no point to it. So, yeah, they had to basically redesign how Mario works. And I think for a first attempt, they did that really admirably.
They did.
But again, with all the positives comes the negatives, like you said. Like the camera issue.
There's inevitable jank. Though I really love that Shigeru Miyamoto had like little things in the game where he wanted to make sure it's not too far away from Mario because, of course, anyone would be afraid of that. Like, this isn't going to feel like a Mario game. Yeah, you're playing as Mario, you're jumping, but is it still Mario? And he wanted to make sure at every star in the game you have to jump to get it.
Yeah, which is actually really nifty.
Yeah, I do really like that. And I think it really does feel like the proper transition for Mario to go into 3D. I just think, if anything, it's a little bit of a shame that we, like, from World. World was the last 2D one we got, and we never really get another Mario World. We just got more remakes of what Mario was in original 2D Mario and not World Mario. That's what I want to see. So now we can kind of showcase you're going back in, you're playing on the same map, but you're doing totally different things. This time we're going to race Koopa the Quick.
But before you do that, you can also, if you wanted to talk to the pink bombs, they would unlock the cannons for you. Which is, again, gives you that choice. And that's another thing I love about this game, too, is that you don't have to get every single star in every single world. You just have to get enough. And if there's certain world stars you don't like to get, you can just skip them.
Through the...
Yes, you did.
I just clipped through the chain chomp.
But, you don't... Unlike later games like Super Mario Sunshine, where you had to get all 6 of the first shine sprites to be able to progress. In this, you don't have to worry about that. You don't like the underwater stages? Just get a couple of those and then just skip the water stages for later.
Yeah, even though the Dire Dire Docks music is beautiful.
It is absolutely beautiful, but, if you can't stand the swimming in this game, which I can get.
Yeah, I can understand. I mean, they're doing so many things all at once. There's flying in this game. Yeah, and all sorts of different types of jumping. They figured out how all these power-ups are going to work, like Metal Mario. Invisibility, I believe, was another one. Where you walk through walls. And then the wing cap, which is the most iconic thing in this whole game, personally. They did so much right. And like I said, it's just mainly age that just really the flaws really start to show. Like I said, the camera only can rotate in specific amounts. You can't have direct control over everything. Right, but I mean, that's the thing. We're comparing this to other 3D games we know. And you gotta step back and remember, nothing like this exists. No, not really. Yeah, I mean, like we said, we have Jumping Flash, where you're effectively like, and that's like the barest of bones, you're moving in a 3D space, and yes, you can jump. But you're basically a tank with a gun. Right, yeah, this is like defining how are we going to, from third person, control a character that is going to, in a 3D space, interact with and properly like complete levels and challenges. Yep. There's so much that had to have gone into this, and I'm surprised that it didn't take them longer to figure this out than it did, even with an extra year delay on the system. Yeah, no, I know. It's such a good game. It is. You can still find physicals of the 3D All-Stars cartridge. Even though we made a whole video about... granted, that topic was entirely different, and I completely forget what my target was for this one, but still, you can still get them, and it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that, they were trying to get people to buy it on impulse, and that was a little scummy. Yeah, that's what happened to me. I got this as soon as I could, day 1 or 2. Yeah. A lot of people did.
But you know what? It was really fun to go through this.
Yeah, it is really fun to revisit these games, and I really like to see like how they play nowadays with all of our experience in other 3D platforming.
Yeah, exactly, right. I mean, without this, we wouldn't have had such other great games in the future. That, with such a good foundation as was established in this one. All right, but should we keep the Mario trainer rolling, or is there anything else you want to add?
Oh, I was going to say there's more. There was no more Mario this year. I mean, we've already looked at a lot here. Now we have a lot of games to talk about in this one, so we're going to try and move on. But Mario 64 and the advent of the N64 is so big, we had to spend a lot of time on this, and even still, we could eventually have an entire video where we simply just talk about Mario 64.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be down for that.
Eventually, when I get around to reviewing it, I can see right here that my camera is giving me a
stuck.
It gets nagged on stuff because Lakitu actually has a 3D collision.
Yep, he does. Well, that was the only way they could figure out how to do it, unfortunately.
Right.
But anyway, so...
Pretty sure the red coins that I need the rest of the red coins are up above in the sky, and I can't get there if I don't have the
you can talk to the first bomb that was on the hill next to the cannon.
But yeah, if we're moving on, if we tried to put these in an order that made sense, so forgive us if sense is not made, we're trying here. The next one we want to talk about is Harvest Moon.
Harvest Moon,
So we're going back to the Super Nintendo. Just because a new console comes out, and this obviously happens all the time, even nowadays, it doesn't mean that the old stuff gets neglected. And Harvest Moon is obviously one of those examples, and this is a franchise that you would probably recognize nowadays. And if you don't, shame on you, especially if you're playing Stardew Valley and saying that, oh, this is so great and innovative. Nah, man.
Yeah, no, since 1996. Well, and now, I kind of understand now, because now Harvest Moon is called Story of Seasons because of license. But still, though, I mean...
That's a technical thing.
Yeah, it's a licensing nonsense. But anyway, Harvest Moon. So this was like... We didn't get this in the States until a whole year later, but in Japan, they were enjoying this game.
Oh, yeah.
So the whole point of the game was that they were trying to make an RPG without combat. How do you go about doing that? Well, you basically live an NPC's life. You inherit a farm from your grandfather, and it's run down, and you've got to really build it back up, and you get to know the townsfolk, you raise animals, you make money selling your crops and your products. Is this all sounding familiar to anybody?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the farming sim game 101. There you go, first time.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, that really is.
This is your
that's
wing
the star.
hats. Oh, it's the star.
Yep.
Well, we were collecting red coins. Let's continue that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's all very grid-based and all that stuff. You kind of move between tiles, which is helpful, especially when you're trying to garden and you're making like the little plots of land and all that for your different crops and all that. It's surprisingly fun even today. Like I had tried it myself, long ago, and I kind of liked what I played. It was really relaxing, and it's one of those... I'm noticing a trend. I think Yahtzee had mentioned this in one of his videos, but there's like a trend in a lot of games coming out that are called like just very chill or layback games.
Yeah.
Yeah, where
I've noticed
getting
that.
a lot of, like, if you saw the Nintendo Direct, or the recent one, a lot of farming simulators.
Yeah, there was a lot of farming game jokes, and people were just like, oh, I hope you like farming games. It's all great, and it's got farming elements to it. And even though, like, I would say just watching that Direct, there were still some needle in the rough ones that I was like, that one actually looks good, but it's being flooded in so many others. Like Square Enix's Harvestella looks really interesting, and then there's like 10 other ones that don't. And people are maybe watching it and not knowing like what are the key things to look for that's going to make that game stand out. And they might, buy the other one because it's cheaper, or buy different games and not ever realize that like, and maybe Harvestella comes out and it's terrible, or we don't know. You never know.
But with Harvest Moon, you do know that it's a certified classic.
Yes. But Super Nintendo was not just giving us that. We also had a really good RPG that... also came out this year.
Oh, yeah. We, like I said, we're going to keep this Mario train going. We're talking about Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars.
Not quite what I was thinking of.
Not what you were thinking of?
No, I was thinking of Star Ocean.
Well, we're talking about Mario RPG now.
We were doing a stupid. Our notes that we're both reading, I wasn't seeing Super Mario RPG was on there, and I was seeing Star Ocean, and Zach, you must have been seeing Mario RPG. So whatever. Let's start out on Mario RPG first, because we are playing Mario. Star Ocean, spoiler, will show up later.
Oh, hey, what a coincidence!
Yeah, I'm actually right now playing for the first time ever Super Mario RPG.
And how are you liking it?
It is really good. Even for how
Yes.
old that game is, it is still really good. It's so charming.
Yeah, so, oh gosh, what?
I missed the one-up.
Oh, that's fine. But hey, you're going to get a star at the end. It doesn't matter.
Woo, woo, woo.
And so, yeah, you can just have fun doing this. This is what's so good about the game. Super Mario RPG. It is a Square game. And
Which is so weird.
yeah,
Square Enix made a Super Mario Brothers game.
yeah, and there's actual like some minor platforming elements in it and everything too, but again, it starts out very much like a typical Mario plot. You're going after Bowser, you're saving the princess.
What makes it different is it's like
Yeah.
taking that turn-based RPG style, I think is what you're saying, and then
Yeah.
making it in the Mario universe, creating new characters, new enemies, all sorts of new stuff, but it still feels very Mario, and it's very funny.
Yeah, it's very funny and it's very subversive because as soon as it's like you get the princess saving out of the way, only to have a bigger bad descend from the sky as a
Yes.
giant sword and
do
kick
that-
everyone out.
You do that immediately, and then you're like, no, that's not what the game's about. In
Right.
fact, you will team up with Bowser. You will have Princess Peach on your team, alongside two weird newcomers that Square Enix makes that are never going to show the light of day ever again.
Nope.
Or Mallow and Gino.
Yeah.
But still, the game is really, really great, and eventually will become the, the poor Mario and Luigi series.
And the Paper Mario
And
series.
Paper Mario was kind of like a spin-off of that, but still, it's
Yeah.
a Mario RPG.
Well, I think Paper Mario was originally called Super Mario RPG 2 in Japan before it got its name changed.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, so that's how much they wanted to emulate it. But yeah, it's really fun. The music is made by Yoko Shimomura, who did the music for Kingdom Hearts and Live Alive. It's really fun. It's just such a fun game.
It is
And,
really great.
one other thing, too, this is one of the first RPGs I can think of where it really tries to force you to pay attention to the battles because it has the extra button presses that you can...
I love that mechanic.
Yes.
That there's like time-based of like how you can block stuff, or you can make your attacks like you can hit twice.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that like the game is already just evolving from normal RPGs, and you wouldn't think to see that when like, so say there's like yet another kart racer and it's just got, different characters splatted in it. You won't expect
Yes.
like the kart racing genre to be evolved by a knockoff of something, but that's just not what
Yeah.
Square Enix does. It doesn't even matter if they had that ability to make... Why can't I pick the... this game? But it doesn't even matter if like they had the rights to Mario for an RPG. They're not going to play it safe and make a generic little kids game. They're even still making all sorts of crazy new creative things because that's just who Square is.
Yeah, I
Was.
I mean, there is still a few
there's still
teams
some of that
in there.
yeah.
But that's neither here nor there for right now. We're talking
Right.
about the joys of video games right now,
Exactly.
not the horrible, present.
Yeah, well, I guess that might just be a little transition into the Star Ocean thing that I spoiled that we'd be also talking about. But
Star Ocean!
Star Ocean!
Yeah.
I've actually not gotten to play this, but I do know that this is a super influential one, especially for Super Famicom, for really pushing the limits of what that game could do.
Yes.
There's vocals in this.
Uh-huh.
There's like animations and all sorts of like crazy things that the Super Nintendo was doing. And that's another thing we didn't really say about Super Mario RPG. I want to point this out. I have, on at least 2 occasions, while talking about Super Mario RPG with this guy right here, mistakenly said it was an N64 game. That is how good it looks.
Yeah, right.
It looks and performs so well, I still am amazed that that thing ran on Super Nintendo.
Yeah, right. No, it's such a good... It just looks so good.
It does. It's so great.
But Star Ocean. So
Star Ocean.
This was published by Enix, and a lot of the people who originally made Tales of Fantasia left Bandai or Namco at the time, and were like, you know what? We're gonna make something else. Hey Enix, you made Dragon Quest. You wanna give us some money for stuff? Yeah, sure. Here you go. And we got basically the Star Trek of RPGs. Mm-hmm. So the whole point is like you start out in a very typical fantasy setting until eventually everything is upturned when basically what you deem to be aliens come down to your planet. They're like, no, you're part of a federation of people. It's like you were just we've broken Federation terms to talk to you because there's a threat coming to you in the form of a disease and all that. Mm-hmm. And this happens like within the first few hours. And so like the beautiful thing is it's again that beautiful subversion where it's like you think you're playing one kind of game and it's like, nope, here you go, here's the twist. and that really hooks you in. And the other thing I love about this, it's a evolution of what Tales of Phantasia was doing with its linear 2D battles, which were like a side-on fighting game, to where you had a more free-form, like you could move all around the battle screen and perform attacks and everything. Everyone had their own actions that they could do. Everyone was screaming all their super moves that they would do. And it just becomes such a glorious mess, but it's a really well done and really fun action RPG-ish kind of game.
Sorry about all the cutting around there, guys. The little squirt decided to wake up from her nap, and she was not having a lot of fun. And so I had to go take care of her. Everything's fine. But anyway, that's why we were kind of like losing our train of thought and like trying to talk, and the same time we were hearing her. Hopefully she wasn't a bother. But anyway, Star Ocean. We have kind of covered everything we needed to talk about Star Ocean anyway, so we got to move on because we have lots of games to talk about. So the next one we're going to be moving on to is Quake.
Quake! Oh my god, I love Quake.
This, I haven't even played it, but even from someone who hasn't played this, you just need to know, like, this engine alone is so important for so many games.
Yeah.
But Zach's the expert, so Zach, tell us all about Quake. I don't know if the secret makes it faster.
No, you lose. He says you cheated.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fine. You can cheat your way through and we'll just reload.
Yep. Yeah. There's another one up over here anyway.
True. All right, so Quake. This was a game that was in development hell for years. This was they'd announced this game, id did, back when they were making the old Commander Keen platformers on PC back in the late 80s, saying that we're going to make a world-spanning RPG where you play as Quake, the most powerful man in the world, with your hammer of thunderbolts and all that. That didn't happen. They're like, okay, so how do we do this? I don't know, we'll figure it out. Then they made Doom, and it's like, oh, man, we got Lamborghini money. Now what do we do?
Yeah, right.
It's like, well, what do we do with the Quake? It's like, I don't know. And so that it was just that protracted development cycle and everything just made the kind of game we have, which is a first-person shooter done in the style of Doom, and with a lot of stuff in it from, like, a lot of H.P. Lovecraft influences, where you have, like, these interdimensional beings waging war against other dimensions and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you literally fight one of the eldritch gods in H.P. Lovecraft's universe, Shub-Niggurath, the mother of goats in the lore, but in this one, it's just like a three-tentacled, weird-looking thing. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Basically, you are the ranger, you don't have a name, your whole mission is just go to these portals, shoot everything dead. That's it.
The big deal about it, though, is that the way that the game was built and the foundation that it was built on would just end up being used in so many odd places that you would never expect, but it was just super important because it, like, that work laid the groundwork for a ton of other things.
Right, because this is the first real 3D shooter. Like, a lot of other games...
Doom was simulating it.
Yeah, it was still a 2D game.
Yeah, like that 3D maze kind of thing.
Yeah, it was a 2D game that had, like, up and down and forward and back, left and right, but it was simulating it. They did a lot of trickery. Same with Duke Nukem 3D. They had to use a lot of in-engine tricks to get it to function like it even did. So... with this, it actually had real polygons. You had a true Z-axis that you could move around in and do stuff with. And the engine itself was made in a way that it's like you could actually play it in render mode, but this one actually used graphics cards and was the one that really got the graphics card and OpenGL movement going, because everyone's like, oh, I want to play the new id game. And so, you know, you have them to thank for, like, the rise of NVIDIA and AMD and all that sort of stuff, and also a plethora of games. Half-Life, anybody? Was originally based on the original Quake engine before Valve went in and put in a bunch of stuff that they needed to make the Gold Source engine. You play Call of Duty, you're still playing Quake, believe it or not. I think it's only very recently that they kind of got most of the Quake stuff out.
Right, yeah, it's like been grandfathered into so many things.
Yes, and it's like, it's just, I can't even list all of the games that this one was used
No, we could honestly have an entire video just on that as well, and maybe eventually. But for now, we're just trying to talk about just what even happened in this year, and just for the concept of, hey, not only do we have, like, the first 3D home consoles that are, like, really hitting home, and everyone's, like, starting to have these things in their house.
Yes.
And the quality is there. and the competition is there, suddenly now even home PC is going to start to really become a thing for gaming.
Yep.
Because they're buying the parts for this to try and run the new things.
Exactly. And one other thing I want to mention real quick, the modding scene. Because of it, we got stuff like Capture the Flag. We got the original Team Fortress was made as a Quake mod before it was remade under the Half-Life engine. And it's just... We're still getting stuff... We're still getting mods for Quake. We're still getting, like, new levels. We're still getting new games based on the original Quake engine. I think Wrath, Aeon of Ruin, that's still in early access on Steam. That's actually really fun. I've tried that, and holy crap, I'm waiting for them to make that. Finally finish it before I buy it. It's just such an influential game. And, of course, this was also the turning point of id, where John Romero and John Carmack split ways and all that, but that's neither here nor there right now. But it's an important piece of gaming history.
All right, so moving on. How about some Neo Geo Arcade?
Yeah, Neo Geo going from 3D to 2D, baby.
Yeah, mostly because I think we just both wanted to talk about Metal Slug.
Metal Slug,
because it's just good.
Oh my god, it's so good.
Not because like it did anything that like was revolutionary. It's just, hey, a really good game came out this year.
Yeah, right. I mean, yeah, you've got all
we can't pass that kind of stuff up.
No, exactly. I mean, there's so much revolutionary stuff coming out, but again, you also have to give due to the things that really pushed classic design to its limits.
Right, like think about Contra. This is just like the super fun way to play Contra.
Oh my god, it's like I love Contra, but I just love the Metal Slug series so much more. It's so over the top and it's so much more action packed.
Well, not modern stuff of either, actually.
Well, yeah, not anymore.
No.
Yeah, why you gotta? No, we're talking about the joys of gaming. Don't harsh my mellow, bro. Okay. So this is basically this one in particular was basically seen as the grand pinnacle of what 2D games could look like.
Yes.
It is so detailed.
The Neo Geo is really powerful, too.
Oh, yeah. Even in 96, it was still punching above its weight.
I'm pretty sure it was the most expensive of the home consoles of your options.
Yes, because you basically were buying an arcade cabinet for your home.
Right, yeah.
And so it was one of the coolest games because in each and every single detail was not left unattended to. Each of the bosses you fight are these giant mechanical tanks and weapons of war, and they degrade over time, so they have to make new sprites and animations to show the wear and tear. Each of the animations you have are super detailed, like blood and sweat spurts everywhere, just have like these cool little bits of animation. It's just taken what really came before and just basically playing up the spectacle of it, which is why I love this game. And it's also, this series in general, it's just such a fun playing game. Like, I can still go back and play them numerous times and not think, oh man, this really feels like a game from 96. This feels like a great game.
It also kind of feels like I could see an indie game and I wouldn't even be shocked if an indie game that looked exactly like that and played just like that came out now, it would still sell well.
Yeah, oh no, for sure. I wholeheartedly would welcome a new take on the formula that Metal Slug made, which is basically a run and gun, but just with that...
If we didn't mention that, if I didn't say that with the Contra analogy.
Oh god,
earlier,
yeah.
We didn't mention, hey, it's a really good game, but this is what it is.
Yeah, it's a run and gun, and it's like you're going up against an evil empire that's seeking world domination, and you're only two dudes with pistols.
Yes.
Have fun.
Then eventually, like, you can grab all sorts of crazy guns. But
heavy machine gun, the Iron Lizard, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, if you all should hopefully know Rocket Lawn Chair. It's like they're good. They're on Steam. They're on all the consoles. Please play them. They're cheap usually, like $10 and less.
Yes,
on sale.
and you can still play them on all sorts of consoles, like you just said. So yeah, how about a game that you've probably played and heard of?
Maybe.
You should definitely know. Mario Kart 2.
Yep.
Better known as Mario Kart 64. I don't think they ever called it Mario Kart 2.
No.
But I had to for my sequel season of reviews because it was technically a 2.
It is technically a 2. You are not wrong.
Yeah, I wanted to somehow dive into the Mario Kart universe of just different games to play. But yeah, so this one. Now, to be fair, I really enjoyed the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
It's still a really good game, but wow. Mario Kart 64.
That leap into 3D, yeah.
And it's funny because it's just the tracks that are 3D.
Yeah, it's the levels and the tracks. It's not we actually have pre-rendered sprites.
Yeah, the items are all two-dimensional images. Well, not all of them. Some of the item boxes are boxes.
3D, yeah.
But like there's like all your character models for your kart racing is just like different, like Donkey Kong Country style, like taking sprite-based screenshots almost of the images of what the 3D model looks like that the system can't keep up with, and just having those appear to simulate the 3D.
Right.
It's like, it's such a creative way around that.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it runs usually it runs super smooth until there's like everything is flying on screen. But overall, because, you know, in this generation, performance wasn't necessarily the end-all be-all like it is now.
I mean, look at this game.
Yeah,
this is not about the performance. This is like Mario 64 is all about like, hey, look, it's happening.
Yeah, it's
Mario Kart was like, okay, but you have performance to compare it to, and the game itself kind of stays the same. It's weirdly one of those things that didn't change so much from the 2D world to the 3D world, because it still played for the most part from the same perspective.
Exactly right, and so. And it introduced to me, because that was my first Mario Kart game, Mario Kart 64.
Oh God!
Unagi the eel. Yeah, I don't know if you can lure him out right now or not. Can you?
I don't remember. Is this the first star or not?
No. The first star is that cave right there.
Okay.
Because
it's in the back. Yeah. They just want you to explore.
Yeah. There's a lot of iconic levels that come from this that eventually just keep getting used and reused in later Mario Kart games.
Yeah. And coming back recently in DLC.
Yeah, for
they
Mario
just announced
Kart 8.
Another round of those, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have any of them because I don't need them. I still own them.
Honestly, the real reason is can't afford the expansion for their online. Which you know what, we could have an whole episode just on online, the concept. But ideas for later.
Ideas for later.
We come up with like 5 ideas for episodes before we actually like finish making one. But anyway, Mario Kart 64 is outstanding. You know, it's one of those series that, like, Mario Kart doesn't really mess up, except on the mobile platform, which I hear they're finally taking out the loot boxy mechanic of Mario Kart Tour. Might finally have to play that.
That should never have been in there.
It should never have been there. But anyway, that's not the topic. We're talking about 1996. What's a mobile game? Anyway,
it's a Game Boy game. That's a mobile game.
I'm trying to remember the correct order for these.
Oh yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's 1,
2 to the left,
and then
3 to the right,
yeah.
and then 4 is the front. Yep. There you go.
I was close. I just messed up my left and rights like I do in real life.
That's okay. I have to tell my left from my left. I have to look to my hands.
Let's talk about an arcade game.
Yeah, arcades. Those are still a thing.
I played this one. In fact, I made a joke in a Playing with Myself episode about House of the Dead.
The House of the Dead.
We're about to talk about.
Oh my God.
It was so funny. As I am making that video, a Nintendo Direct pops up. Oh, no, that wasn't the first one. Plunder in the Sunken Ship. Oh, I'm supposed to go in the I'm supposed to lure the eel out.
Oh, okay,
to go get inside the ship and then...
See, I always did that one first because I always thought that was the first one. Whatever.
Anyway, so yeah, I'm making the episode of Playing with Myself, and I am writing a joke about how nobody knows what House of the Dead is. And then I played House of the Dead, and that Nintendo Direct that happens as I am making the video brings back House of the Dead, which, by the way, I heard those remasters for Switch were not great.
No, they're not.
No, but they exist, and the thing is, hey, you can at least play them. Now, the thing is, this was designed to be like a light gun game, that you're aiming at the arcade cabinet itself, and you're supposed to be, like, shooting all the zombies in a rail shooter.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, because the premise is you are part of a special organization who's been sent to a mansion where the undead have come up, and you're trying to stop the madman scientist behind it all.
That's if you're paying attention to the story.
That's not the point. The point is you have a light gun, you shoot off screen, and you actually... The thing I always loved about this game was the damage models on the zombies. Like, if you just pull off some headshots, it takes them down really quick, and you get some extra points. But the fact that they went through the trouble to make new models for, like, shooting off an arm or going through their chest and everything else, it's like, it was that attention to detail and just the rapid, fast-paced nature of it all. It wanted your quarters, but it felt like you could actually go through and beat it on a single quarter if you had the time to do it. Because unfortunately it was made in a time in the arcade where, again, it wanted your quarters. There was really cheap shots. Like, all of a sudden you turn around and right away a zombie was already in the process. Yeah, the zombie was already in the process of attacking, and unless if you knew it was there, you couldn't shoot it. end time, and you had to take the damage and just go on through.
Yeah.
One of the other things I loved about
The bosses were also ridiculous.
The bosses are ridiculous, but there are branching paths in the game if you know what you're looking for. Like at the very beginning when you're trying to storm the mansion.
It's so weird.
Yeah. Well, that was replayability that I didn't expect from an arcade game, you know? Weirdness like that. But it's like at the beginning of the game when you're storming the mansion, there is a zombie who's going to throw a scientist off of a bridge into the moat to drown him. If you let it happen, you just go through the front door. But if you actually go in and you actually get the zombie down, the scientist will say, "Here, thanks for saving me. Try down there."
Yeah.
In that exact kind of voice.
Yeah,
and
it's very Star Fox.
Yeah, and you go through the whole... What?
What happened?
What do you mean what happened?
Hold up. The eel. I was trying to lure him that whole time. Nothing happened, and now
Now he comes to...
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
I don't
Unagi.
understand. Whatever.
But that's all I have. What about you? Anything you wanted to add about House of the Dead?
I just remember it being at a local movie theater, and it was always more fun than the movies. I don't remember a thing about the movies I watched with my friends there.
Yeah.
But I remember House of the Dead.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, if you can find a way to play it, please play the original, not the remake, I'd argue.
Yeah, well... Yeah, but I don't know how you could faithfully. That's the problem. It is designed to be a physical light gun game aiming at a CRT screen.
No, I know, and that's the problem.
You can functionally do it now with a Joy-Con, which can aim, but problems that arise with that. But still, I'm glad it happened. I did not expect that to happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. But anyway, speaking of other arcade games, we could go to Dead or Alive.
Sure.
Why did we want to include this one, Alex?
Well, Zach, I said this was imperative
yes,
to the history of gaming.
Well, how so, sir?
Well, you see, this, Dead or Alive, is actually the team who you may know from Ninja Gaiden.
Team Ninja.
Team Ninja. So already you must be like, oh, Alex is going to like this game. Well, you see... It's not exactly why I think it's important it needs to be in here.
Right.
No, they made sure that they were researching some top-of-the-line, very important physics mechanics that are going to design exactly how the look of boobs are going to work for the future of video games, and I'm not kidding.
Booba?
Boob jiggle physics. This is the advent of boob jiggle physics. Why we had to add this in this video? You know exactly why.
Yeah.
Because if anything, it has now gotten so obnoxious that like it's just a thing that you expect to have happen.
Yeah, for real. Yeah, right. I'm just gonna say, in anime we have Gainax to thank for that, and in video games we have Team Ninja.
In Dead or Alive.
In Dead or Alive.
The people who we trusted with Metroid.
Hey, you know, whatever.
It happened.
It happened.
It happened.
But now we just kind of take it, for, like you said, for granted. But yeah, that was revolutionary, quote unquote.
It was, and that honestly, the graphics are what sold that game at the time. To be fair, look at what we're playing right now, and if you are trying to sell a game on its graphics, that is the thing that you do. And if anything, if you're arguing of a game that is being influential, so many things literally just took that and just did it.
Yeah, whatever. They have no shame.
No, they didn't. So. Better or worse?
Yeah,
Dead or Alive, ladies and gentlemen.
Dead or Alive. Although
I'm very curious what your screenshots are going to be for this part of the video.
Oh, I've got some in mind.
Okay, good.
But
we're all concerned.
I will say though that it actually is a pretty fun fighting game.
It is. Yeah, we didn't mention that. It's a fighting game.
Yeah.
And
are they
still making them? There's plenty of them.
They are actually. Yeah, Dead or Alive 7, I think, was a thing not too long ago.
Really? I didn't know they had that many. I knew there was like up to like 5-ish.
Or am I thinking of Tekken? I might be thinking of Tekken as well.
Tekken recently just got its 7th, or was it 8th?
8th, yeah.
8th just got announced. That looks really good, by the way.
The one I know most recently.
I hate this part of the game.
Dead or Alive Beach Volleyball Extreme 3. That came out.
Oh my god. A friend of mine had this game, and he was like trying to desperately explain to us, like, no, it's actually a really fun volleyball game. I played it with a friend of mine. You should play it. It's really fun, I swear.
No.
And I'm just listening like, Yeah, I'm sure you just read Playboy for all the articles. It's
That's
very
right.
informative. That's exactly what you're telling me. It's how it's coming off. Like, no, I know why Dead or Alive is a big deal, and they knew why people played that, and that's why they made a beach volleyball game.
I've seen people play the volleyball portion of it. It's not a good volleyball game.
No, it's not. He
None
made
of
me
them.
play it. I was like, it's not even a good volleyball game. What are you talking about? He's like, but it's really good. I unlocked all these costumes. I'm like, that's
not part
a
of
piece of
gameplay.
string.
Yeah.
Aside from that. Anyway. And that is where we're going to be leaving it for this episode. I'm sorry, but this year ended up being so enormous that we had so much to talk about. We have to split this one into two.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry about that. But so we're going to be talking about our favorite games and most influential games of the year in the next part, which is really the next episode of Hitbox. But still, it will be coming in very soon. Sorry about the way that we have to crop it off like this, but this poor man has a life. He wants to play more Final Fantasy XIV,
What more
and
can
I can't steal this from him.
I have to. We just got our free company house. I have to furnish my room.
Think of the children. Think of the children. Okay. Anyway, thank you all for tuning into this episode of Hitbox. If you enjoyed the show, you can help us keep it alive by supporting us on Patreon with the links in the show notes in this episode's description. For those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more. And be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and what other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future. And special thanks to all of our amazing Patreon members. See ya.